Hey, hi, my dear students. Hope you guys are all doing good. Hope you guys are all perfectly fine. I hope you might have given your taxation paper in an excellent manner. And looking at the questions, I generally find that yes, this question paper is quite manageable, not very complicated, not that easy, also not damn easy, I will say. Why? Because here and there, a few tricky things are there. So, having said that, yes, it was an average paper, it was a moderate paper. You can attempt it in an easy manner. So without any delay further, let us do one quick review of this question paper. So especially MCQs and all, we will have a quick look, and descriptive, I will just identify the chapters and all. And a humble suggestion for me, from me, if you are appearing for the upcoming examinations, if you are planning, if you are even attempting for group 2 as well, I would suggest you not to look at the answers. You concentrate on your preparation, but still if you don't have any exam left, you have that anxiety to know the answers, then only refer to the rest of the video. So having said that, I will continue with my discussion. Right. So let us have a look at this. I will talk about the scenarios, case scenarios. First, I will be talking about the first case scenario. Raj Enterprises, which is a partnership firm registered in the sale of, which is engaged in the sale of both taxable as well as exempt goods in Bhubaneswar, Odisha. So they are registered in the state of Odisha. So that is their registration state. On 20th of March 2024, it entered into a contract of providing painting services to one of its client for his office. The value of the whole contract was pre-decided for 2 lakh. The due date to complete the contract was estimated to be 20th of April 2024. However, due to some disputes with the client painting service was stopped abruptly on 31st of March 2024. Only 60% of the work was completed up to 31st of March 2024. So this is what the situation says. So now this is a case of cessation of service before completion. So you have agreed to provide the services. It is supposed to get completed on 20th of April, but it was stopped even before the service gets completed because of some issue. In that case, in the tax invoice chapter, as we have seen, in case if the supply of services ceases before completion, you are required to generate a tax invoice before that supply ceases, before that supply of service ceases, up to the value, up to the extent of value provided, to the extent of the value of the service provided. So here, this Raj Enterprises will become liable to generate tax invoice on or before 31st of March 2024. For that extent, how much extent? Only 60% of the work is completed. So out of that 2 lakh rupees, for 60%, that is for 1,20,000, Raj Enterprises is required to issue the invoice on or before 31st of March 2024. So this is what we have discussed in the chapter of tax invoice. Yes, this is what the question you have. What is the due date for issuance of invoice and the value of such invoice issued for that works contract, for that painting services, when you are required to give invoice on or before 31st of March 2024, and for what value? Not for the entire value, only to the extent to which the work has been completed. Only 60% of the work is completed. So in 2 lakh 60%, if you calculate, that will come to 1,20,000. So on or before 31st of March 2024, you are required to issue the invoice for 1,20,000. Next, proceeding further, Raj Enterprises received a new order from Mr. Mathur of Kerala on 25th of April 2024 for supply constituting both a taxable as well as exempt supply. He sold goods amounting to 55,000 rupees, out of which the goods worth 10,000 was exempt. The value of exempt goods is separately mentioned in the invoice, and both goods are independent to each other. Applicable rate of GST is 12%. He issued a single invoice in respect of both taxable and exempt supply. The accountant of the firm advised the firm that the requirements of e-way bill is based on the requirements of consignment value. Now, one more thing I want to bring it before your attention. All the amounts given above are exclusive of GST wherever applicable. Okay, fine. So now they will ask a question regarding e-way bill. So if I show you the question, consignment value of goods supplied to Kerala to Mr. Madhur. In order to determine applicability of issue of e-way bill, what is the consignment value? So as we all know, they have told that in the invoice, total value is 55,000. Out of that, exempt goods is 10,000 rupees, that you have to exclude it. The balance will come to 45,000. And for the purpose of calculation of consignment value, you have to even add the GST also. They told applicable rate of GST is 12%. Applicable rate of GST is 12%. So if you multiply that 12%, 45,000 into 12%, if you calculate that, it will come to 5,400. The total consignment value here will be 50,400. So the answer is 50,400 will be the consignment value for the purpose of e-way bill purposes. Now coming to the third paragraph, the firm has received a GST refund of 50,000, which was sanctioned by the department erroneously, wrongly they have given it, and it was credited to cash ledger of the firm. and interest of 1100 was also payable by the firm owing to the late payment of GST for previous tax periods. They are required to pay interest, and as we all know, interest can't be paid out of electronic credit ledger. Interest has to be paid only through electronic cash ledger. The firm's output tax liability for the month of April 2024 is 2,50,000 rupees, including output tax liability, if any, on the above mentioned services. Okay. The opening balance lying in electronic credit ledger of the firm was 2,60,000 rupees, and the opening balance of electronic cash ledger was 70,000 rupees. All the amounts given above are exclusive of GST wherever applicable, and they will ask you one question: what is the remaining balance after filing all the returns for the month of April? So now if you see, your output tax liability is 2,50,000 for the entire month of April, or it is 2,50,000 including all your output tax liabilities. You need not calculate your output tax separately. They have clearly told what is your total output tax liability, which is 2,50,000 rupees. So now on this 2,50,000 rupees of output tax liability, you have an input tax credit of 2,60,000. So what you can do, you can use it. No doubt you can use it. So you can pay that using 2,60,000 rupees, 2,50,000. After that, how much balance will be left out in the electronic credit ledger? 10,000 rupees will be left out. And not just that, you are required to pay 1,100 rupees of interest, no, that you can make payment using electronic cash ledger. They told that electronic cash ledger balance is 70,000 opening balance. Out of that, 50,000 rupees is something which is wrongly credited. It has to be reversed. 50,000 you have to give it back. And interest, whatever you are required to pay, that 1,100 you can pay it through the electronic cash ledger. So if you do that, 18,900 will be the balance in the electronic cash ledger. So after filing the April month returns, this will be the balance: 10,000 rupees of electronic credit ledger and 18,900 rupees of electronic cash ledger. So if you see here, in the electronic credit ledger, I will have 10,000 rupees, and in the electronic cash ledger, I will have 18,900 rupees. Clear and comfortable, everybody? So this is what the three questions which have been asked. So now coming to one more MCQ. Aggregate turnover of Techno India Private Limited, a registered person, is 800 crores. So they have clearly told this entity. This is different question from case scenario based MCQ. So they are telling a company, Techno India Private Limited, they have aggregate turnover of 800 CR. So if you look at this turnover, they are fulfilling the requirements of B2B also. For B2B, you are required to give e-invoice. And not just that, since their aggregate turnover is more than 500 CR, they are even required to give, for B2C supplies, they are even required to give a dynamic QR code. For B2C supplies, they are required to give a dynamic QR code. For B2B invoices, they are required to give e-invoice. If you are giving e-invoice, anyhow, on that QR code will be there. If you are giving a B2C invoice, since your aggregate turnover has exceeded the 500 CR, you are required to anyhow give the dynamic QR code. Now, the question which they are asking is, which of the following statement is correct in respect of the QR code? Invoices issued are required to have a QR code, irrespective of whether it is issued against a B2B supply. Yes, in the given case, if it is a B2B supply, it will contain a QR code generated by way of e-invoice. If it is a B2C supply, then it will contain a QR code which is a dynamic QR code. If it is export supply, if you remember the discussion of tax invoice and all, even for export supplies also it will be treated as B2B supply. On that also QR code will come, QR code as per e-invoicing. And supply to government department, even though it is a government department, it has taken registration exclusively for deduction of TDS, still it will be deducted, still it will be considered as a registered person. So in that case also it will contain QR code as per e-invoicing norms. For that also e-invoice will be given. If it is a e-invoice, it will contain the QR code. So they are asking in which of the cases QR code will be there. I will say in all the cases QR code will be there. In the case of B2B supply, export supply and supply to government department, it will have a QR code as per e-invoicing. If it is a B2C supply, since its aggregate turnover has exceeded 500 CR, it will contain the dynamic QR code. See, they did not specifically mention whether it is a dynamic QR code or a QR code as per e-invoice. But if you ask me, it will get covered under e-invoicing provisions also, it will get covered under dynamic QR code provisions also. So that's why for all the supplies, for B2B, B2C, export supply or supply to government department, everywhere it will contain a QR code. In some cases, it will contain a QR code as per e-invoicing provisions. In some cases, it will contain the QR code as per this dynamic QR code norms. So if you ask me, in all the cases, QR code will be there. Very tricky question. Very tricky question. Here, often people will get confused here. But if you ask me personally, in all the cases, QR code will be there. In some cases, QR code as per e-invoice. In some cases, QR code as per dynamic QR code provisions. QR code is required for invoices issued only for B2B supply, export supply and supply to government department, for not for B2C supply. But no, if it is a B2C supply, it will anyhow contain a dynamic QR code. So this option is wrong. QR code is required for invoices issued for B2B supply, B2C supply, export supply, but not for supply to government departments. No, even for supply to government departments also e-invoice will be there. If you are giving e-invoice, it will contain a QR code. QR code is required for invoices issued for B2B supply, B2C supply and supply to government department, but not for export supply. No, this is wrong. Even for export supplies also will be treated as B2B supply. On that also QR code will be there. QR code as per e-invoice will be there. So that's why according to me the option is and the answer is A. Yeah, but I think here I don't know what is the intention of the ICAI, but according to me, if I do apply the provisions here correctly, A should be the correct answer. Next, Mr. Arun, a registered person, is a Delcred agent of Uday and AST Limited. Mr. Arun reported the following transactions for the month of October 2024. Sale of goods of Uday Limited in DCA capacity is for 4,50,000. Invoices are made in the name of Uday Limited. So here who is agent? Arun is an agent. He is acting as an agent on behalf of Uday. On behalf of his principal, he made some supply. But in that invoices are given in the name of Uday Limited. That invoices are included given in the name of Uday Limited. So for this 4,50,000, Arun will not pay any GST. Who will be required to pay GST? So this will be added to the turnover of Uday Limited. On behalf of his principal, he has made a supply, and the principal is only giving the invoice. Principal is only giving the invoice in his own name. So this 4,50,000 rupees invoice will be given by Uday Limited, and GST also will be paid by that Uday Limited. Next, sale of goods of AST Limited in DCA capacity for 2,20,000. Invoices are issued by Mr. Arun in his own name. So now in this capacity, he is giving invoices in his own name. So this 2,20,000 rupees on this GST will be payable by Arun because he is issuing the invoice in his own name. He will fall under that agent definition as per Schedule 1. So on this 2,20,000, he will be required to give the invoices, and that will become his taxable value. To both the principals, he has given guarantee for the realization of the payments from the customers, and to fulfill it, he extends a short-term transaction-based loans to the customers and charge interest from the same. From the customers of Uday Limited, he charged 45,000 rupees of interest. From the AST Limited, he has charged an interest of 22,000. So if you ask me, this 22,000, whatever interest he is charging, that should be added to that 2,20,000. So it will come to 2,42,000. The question is the value of supply of goods to customers on which tax will be payable by Mr. Arun. It will be on this 2,20,000 he will pay. Along with that, this 22,000 rupees interest also will be added to that principal supply. So this 22,000 also will be considered as a ancillary supply to this principal supply. On this 2,42,000 is the value of the taxable supply of Mr. Arun. But whatever this 45,000, this service, this short-term loan, whatever he is giving to the customers of Uday Limited, for which invoice has been given by Uday Limited directly, this will not be added to the value of supply. This is actually giving the money for use for which a separate consideration is getting charged, but this is an exempt supply. If you are giving money for use for which a separate consideration in the form of interest is getting charged, that is a supply. That is a supply of service, but that is an exempt supply as per exemptions chapter. So if you ask me here, 2,42,000 will be the value of the supply of the goods to the customers on which tax will be payable by Mr. Arun, and the value of exempt supply will be 45,000. What will be the value of exempt supply? Which will be 45,000. Okay, understood everybody? Clear and comfortable? Yes. Let us try to proceed further now. Now we have one more case scenario. Let us have a quick look at it. Sandeep, a registered person in Pune, Maharashtra, where he is registered Maharashtra. He is engaged in the business of providing training services to various registered and unregistered persons. During the month of October 2024, he conducted training camps at different cities in Uttar Pradesh for general public and received 3,45,000 for such camps. So unregistered person, training services. So place of supply, once again you have to go. In case of training and performance appraisal services, you need to see the place of supply will be decided as per the status of the recipient. If the recipient is unregistered, then wherever that event has taken place. So here they are telling Sandeep has provided training services to unregistered persons, to general public in different cities of Uttar Pradesh. So for this, the place of supply will be Uttar Pradesh, wherever event has taken place. Location of the supplier is Maharashtra, Pune. Both are falling in two different states. It will be a interstate outward supply amounting to 3,45,000. It will be a interstate outward supply. Then he was hired by Arihant Pharma Limited, which is registered in Goa, to provide training to its employees for a total consideration of 2,20,000. Now, training services provided to recipient who is a registered person. Location of the recipient will become the place of supply. So, what is the location of the recipient? Location of the recipient is Goa. So, here the place of supply will be Goa. Location of the supplier is Maharashtra. So both are falling in two different states. So for this, a 2,25,000 also, this 2,25,000 is also an interstate outward supply. 2,25,000 is also an interstate outward supply. Next, the training was given to 20 employees at Mumbai, Maharashtra. So where the event is getting performed, that doesn't matter. In case if the recipient is a registered person, location of the recipient will be the place of supply. Sandeep also gave his residential property in Mumbai to Arihant Pharma Limited for stay of employees who joined the training. 10,000 rupees per person was additionally charged by Sandeep for a period of stay of 30 days rupees. Renting of residential dwelling for other than residential purposes. So this service will become taxable, and since the recipient is a registered person, that will get covered under reverse charge mechanism. So this is his outward supply. This 10,000 rupees is outward supply, but 10,000 rupees for 20 persons, which will come to somewhere around total 2 lakh rupees of renting of residential dwelling services he has done. This service is taxable, but this will be paid under reverse charge mechanism by the recipient. So on this 2 lakh rupees, he is not required to pay the GST. Who will pay the GST? The recipient will pay the GST under reverse charge mechanism. Next. Next. Sandeep hired a bus from Ravi, registered in Maharashtra, at 50,000 rupees for 30 days to transport trainees. The bus is having a seating capacity to 20 trainees. Cost of fuel is also included in the consideration paid to Ravi. So he received renting of a vehicle carrying the transportation of passengers. See, first of all, will RCM will become applicable here? No, RCM will not become applicable. When RCM will become applicable in case of renting of motor vehicle, supplier should be other than body corporate, recipient should be a body corporate. But here Sandeep is receiving that services who is not a body corporate. So here RCM will not become applicable. Supplier only will pay the GST. So supplier only will pay the GST on that 50,000 rupees applicable at the rate of 18%. So if you calculate 50,000 rupees into 18%, which will come to 9,000 rupees. Actually 4,500 rupees of CGST, 4,500 rupees of SGST. This GST he would have paid on this inward supply. This 9,000 rupees of GST he has already paid. Can he claim that as input tax credit? Yes, this 9,000 rupees he can take it as input tax credit without any objection. See, ITC is blocked when you are renting a motor vehicle having a seating capacity of less than or equal to 30. But here there is no such restriction. This is a bus which is having a seating capacity of 20 trainees. So that's why this on this ITC is not blocked. This 9,000 rupees, whatever GST that he would have paid on his inwards, he can claim it as input tax credit also. Next, cost of fuel is okay. This is all fine. Sandeep also received security services from Protect You Service Limited for 35,000 rupees. So he has also received some 35,000 rupees of security services. First of all, will this get covered under RCM? No, RCM will get covered only when the supplier is other than body corporate. Here supplier is actually a body corporate. So here RCM will not become applicable, FCM only. So on these 35,000 rupees, they would have already charged GST from him. How much? 35,000 rupees into 18%. If you calculate that, it will come to 6,300. So on this 35,000, 6,000 rupees of GST he would have already paid, that he can take it as input tax credit. So totally from this 9,000 he can take input tax credit, this 6,300 also he can take input tax credit. Total 15,300 rupees of ITC he can avail. Okay, so now if you look at the questions, what are the questions that are getting asked? Number 1, amount on which Sandeep is required to pay RCM. Tell me, is he required to pay any RCM here? No. Why? Because the conditions are nowhere getting fulfilled. So he is required to pay 0. On 0 amount he is required to pay RCM. Why? Because he has received 2 input services. One is renting of motor vehicle and the other one is receiving of security services. But in both the cases conditions are violated for RCM. So RCM he is not required to pay 0. On 0 he will be required to pay RCM. What is the tax payable in cash including RCM by Sandeep? As I have already told you, Sandeep is not required to pay any RCM. Now, if you see outward tax liabilities on which is required to pay GST. So if I calculate, so totally 3,45,000 plus 2,25,000, it will come to 5,70,000. On this 5,70,000, 18% GST you have to pay. So if I calculate that 5,70,000 into 18%, which will come to, so output tax liability will be 1,02,600. On that ITC he is already having 15,300 rupees of ITC he is having. If he uses that, minus 15,300, if he uses that, total 87,300 rupees of GST is required to pay it in cash. So how much GST is required to pay it in cash? 87,300 rupees of GST is required to pay it in cash. Now, what is the amount of interstate outward supply on which Sandeep shall pay tax? So this we have already calculated. So this is 3,45,000 is also interstate supply, 2,25,000 is also interstate supply. So if you do that, 5,70,000 rupees is the interstate outward supply on which Sandeep shall pay tax. Sir, he has also made 2 lakh rupees of renting of immobile property, no, but on that Sandeep will not pay the tax. Recipient will pay the tax under reverse charge mechanism. So that's why this will not get added there. So on 5,70,000 rupees is the interstate outward supply on which Sandeep shall be liable to pay the tax. Understood? Next. So now coming to the descriptive questions. As I've told, descriptive questions will try to quickly identify the chapters. So first, as we all know, first question will be regarding computation of GST and all. Here also they say the same thing. What is the net GST payable in cash by MLM Private Limited for the month of March of 2024? They are asking. So where you are required to calculate your output tax liability, you are required to calculate your input tax credit. Even for utilization of input tax credit also, you have to create one table. And in this, they have linked one question regarding time of supply. First point is regarding time of supply, regarding advance and all. Then second one is regarding related to exemption, but that is not exempted and all. It is a pure labor contract, something related with the exemptions also they have given one question. Then schedule 1, those activities which will be considered as supply even without consideration, they have tested one point on that. And from exemptions also they have covered one question. Then they have included once again car rental services, renting of immobile property, RCM along with blocked credit, they have tested one provision. Then this one is direct services of independent director. This is also from the charge of GST chapter. And this is regarding exemptions. No, this is regarding the supply chapter. Quid pro quo non habet. So that kind of thing is there when you are receiving consideration, which is that when you are giving a donation to the charitable institution, which does not result in advertisement and all, then it will not be considered as any supply. So that one circular we have discussed in the supply chapter. From that they have asked one question. Yeah, so these are a few important points. Yes, overall manageable, reasonable question. You can answer it with ease. Next. Coming to another one, Ajay, a registered person, provided the following details about the transactions entered by him in the month of July. So one is that this is regarding valuation chapter. This question is regarding the valuation thing. First point, they're asking whether TCS should be included in the value of supply. No, TCS should not be included in the value of supply. TCS collected under Income Tax Act, that should not be added to the value of supply. On that they have tested this first point. Then subsidy, they are talking about subsidy given by central government or state government, it will not be added to the value of supply. Next, credit note related things they are telling. Value related discounts, post supply discounts. This point is regarding post supply discounts. As we have seen, the post supply discounts will be allowed as deduction only when three conditions, only when in our class we say three conditions. So number one, there should be an agreement at the time of making supply. Number two, we should be able to calculate the discount invoice wise. Number three, the recipient should be ready to reverse the proportionate amount of input tax credit. When all these conditions are satisfied, then that can be reduced from the value of supply. Next, sold goods to old age home and all this, they have linked certain kind of things with the exemptions and all. This point is related to exemptions. So this is also discount related provision 15 subsection 3. So this entire question is regarding the valuation, value of supply. 5 marks they have tested from the value of supply chapter. So anyhow we will do if see it is senseless when we start doing all these calculations and all. It will take a lot of time. If time permits, we'll prepare a suggested answer and give it to you. But yeah, just I'm doing the identification of the descriptive questions. Next, so this is regarding input tax credit. Now one question they have asked regarding the input tax credit, you are required to calculate the amount of ITC available. Okay, so they have given goods received in lots or installments. They have given one question whether you can avail input tax credit for CSR activities, goods purchased for CSR activities. They have asked outdoor catering expenses and all, no legal obligation. So these things also we have covered. If it is not reflected in the GST or 2B, you should not avail it. This question is relating to that. Yeah, so buy one get one free. So this circular also we have discussed in the input tax credit chapter. So these are all relating to input tax credit. So from the input tax credit chapter, they are asking you to calculate what is the total amount of ITC available. For that they have given 5 marks here. Then printing related one circular we have discussed in the supply chapter. No, this is not printing related. This is relating to exemption. Exemption to educational institutions. So that services provided in relation to conduct of an examination. So this is what that question relating to the exemptions chapter. Next, this is also relating to charitable and educational institutions. This question is also relating to that exemptions chapter only. And then we have two cases where they are talking about healthcare services. they're talking about healthcare services. So in our marathon also we have covered this charitable and religious activities, educational institutions, and even we have considered hospital related services. A lot of things we have discussed. So yeah, I hope marathon should have helped you a lot here. Next, one question they have given regarding interest. Very, very important in our regular batch, in our exam oriented batch. We have solved with different kinds of questions also. When interest will be paid only on ITC or only on amount paid through cash. When ITC is required to be paid on the entire amount. We have done many illustrations in our classroom. So the same kind of question, just the change of the facts are there, but everything they have given. These kind of questions we have solved a lot in our regular class. So this is what that question about. Next, Next, what we have. This is from e-way bill chapter. They are asking you the inspection and verification procedures as per CGST rules and all relating to e-way bill, so that you can write it here. Then what we have. This is regarding that schedule 1. What activities will be considered as supply even if there is no consideration? That schedule 1. And when an activity will be considered as supply even if it is not in the course or furtherance of business, like if you are receiving if you are importing a services for a consideration, whether or not in the course or furtherance of the business, it will always be considered as supply. So from the supply chapter they have tested, straightforward question they have tested. Then from the registration chapter we have one question. What is the validity period for registration certificate granted to CTP and NRTP? So as mentioned in the as mentioned in there, or 90 days, even that can be extended by further 90 days and all, that also we have seen. This question is regarding deficiencies. This is from introduction to GST chapter. What are the deficiencies in the existing taxation system which led to the bringing of the GST? Then discuss the provisions relating to issue of tax invoice and delivery challan in the case of semi knocked down or completely knocked down condition. So we have discussed this also when discussing the tax invoice thing and all. Delivery challan, in that we have discussed one SKD, CKD, this kind of heading you will be able to find it in the material. Semi knocked down or completely knocked down condition. Yes, this is what the question from tax invoice. Okay, so this is what the question paper has been. This is what one of the brief review. Yeah guys, so hope you would have given your examination in a better manner. See you later. Bye.